on the red. And you'll see how these picks and bans line up against last time. So far, the exact same bans from game 1, the Kazakhs and the Malzahar. So if it goes true to chalk, it's Graves, Camille, and Shen Rengar.
Well, that's Camille. The order is changed, but it could still be the same as in that first game. FlyQuest seemingly perma-banning, but the Shen comes out as a ban right here.
Yeah, so pretty much everyone's doing the same things. We'll see if the Graves is still in there. It's actually going to be Lee Sin instead, so FlyQuest switching things up after realizing how darn good he was on it last time around.
Svenskeren, potentially the best Lee Sin in North America. Super good game 1, was player of the game in TSM's first victory.
And now it's a Rengar Graves pinch, and he's actually going to ban Jason instead so that they can both get one of these top-tier junglers. And I want to see, actually, if they consider Rengar above Graves. I know last time TSM said it was, but the Graves won.
We've seen a lot of Rengar this week, as we were expecting a lot of the previous LeBlanc, Rengar, and Camille picks to go through into the pick phase and get a little bit more visibility. And I've not been impressed by hardly any of the Rengars I've seen on this current patch. The Q range being reduced makes him a little bit less sticky. The fact that he can't cleanse CC when he jumps in makes the countering him much more
Yeah, he doesn't
capable.
remain immune.
Yeah, and I just haven't liked it as a pick, so you can see it a little bit deprioritized here with the Tonks going down early with the Maokai.
Yeah, of course, there's only been the one Shen ban, so Maokai is still going to be answered pretty easily by the Nautilus. They did the same thing they did in game 1, but you're right, we do see slightly different junglers now. Rengar, of course, allowed through. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, I do feel like the Maokai is a smart pick, only because Hauntzer has been so good with Maokai that it's even more important to get the denial there, despite Nautilus being a potential thing to pick and somewhat match.
And it will be Nautilus. Yep. Okay, Rengar Nautilus, so very similar champions to before. Graves not a surprise at all, and now the question is Varus, Jhin, Ashe, or is it something else entirely? LeBlanc keeps being banned away in the second round, so does Zed, and I wonder if Hai is going to care enough to actually pick one of these himself anyway, instead of letting himself get pushed down a little bit in the pool.
Very true, because they're in a weird situation right here. If they don't go with the Jhin or the Varus, they're not getting it on the second round of picks. And Hai has been generally happy with his mid laners, especially with how much success he had Orianna there. So, once again, Varus deprioritized in a game 3 of a TSM series, neither banned nor picked.
So TSM, Zed, LeBlanc, give pretty much anyone very good odds on that one. Is what they banned every single time so far in this series. This time around, though, they haven't grabbed their earlier support pick, so maybe that changes a little bit, but looks like he's going to be happy just to play. Yep, there's the same Zyra ban as before, so very much, well, I should say, very few changes have been made in pick ban compared to game 1.
Yeah, super similar, you know? Malzahar still banned away. They're making sure Elimination is probably pushed on the Karma. The only change here, now Kassadin banned. That means LeBlanc is potentially available.
As a first pick, yeah.
And also Karma, I feel like, are 2 picks that could be traded back and forth.
Well, this is interesting. Kassadin, I believe, is supposed to be the counter pick to LeBlanc, if I know it properly. And yeah, the Kassadin ban prompts the LeBlanc ban afterwards.
And now, even though Biofrost has had 2 decent Nami games, there's a chance they can get it back. And this is the game that Ryze hasn't been picked through. So that's actually what TSM just jumps on top of right now.
That's a good
with
play.
So many Assassins already banned away.
I really do like what they've done there. They kind of managed to force one-sided mid lane ban to get a good matchup anyway. Ryze, of course, still heavily high priority. And now FlyQuest must complete their lineup of the mid laner and the support. They're blind picking support, which is not exactly a huge concern.
Karma's
Karma's the one.
For Elimination, he's played it in both of the first 2 games. But now, we wonder what Hai answers with. He has had good Corki games. His Orianna game was good as well. Both those picks are acceptable. Cassiopeia is a good pick against Ryze, but we haven't seen much of it from Hai.
Yeah.
Shaking out his wrists. What's he going to do? That usually is a assassin shake, but he can't pick Zed or Kassadin.
True. Jarvan, Talon, Orianna. All right, Orianna back to what he played last week. To be fair, he did very well on it, so you can't really fault him. See how he does. Ooh.
Yeah,
Not seen much Bard.
I would expect the Nami from Biofrost because that's been the lane they've had success with.
Yeah, there's the hover, there's the lock-in. Nami it is going to be very similar champions to what was picked up before. Yeah, 3 Nami games in a row for TSM, and I believe it's 3 Karma games in a row for FlyQuest down here in the bottom lane. So clearly happy to keep that going the whole way through.
Yeah, and looking at the team compositions this game, it is Back to basics for TSM. None of this cute double TP flanking nonsense. It's straight up the gut with Ryze and Nautilus. Not to mention, they have access to Realm Warp right now, which they were very good with the last time Bjergsen had Ryze. Try and manipulate FlyQuest around the map with it. We shall see.
Gonna be fun one to watch for as the picks and bans timers tick down. Of course, there's gonna be no swaps left in this one. Everyone's gonna play their appropriate champions here. And we get to see if a team fighting comp turns it around for TSM. Important to me as well is watching the Moon versus Svenskeren matchup. In the first game, Svenskeren easily outperformed him. In the second one, I feel like it went a little bit more Moon favored. He got first blood, managed to keep up a bit better. So if Moon plays like he did in the second game, which was an improvement over the first, this looks a bit better for FlyQuest. And obviously that Lee Sin target ban, pretty important as Svenskeren was otherwise demolishing in game one on that champion.
Yeah, I agree. And if we look at the team compositions just from a raw synergy perspective, I love FlyQuest team comp. They have the team fighting shields, they have natural ways to lock down whoever they want and then blow them up with all the range they can add with Graves, Jhin, and Orianna. So it's going to be a tough life for Ryze, I feel like, in this game, because if Balls just gets on with Maokai, I can see them bursting him down almost no matter what items he builds.
Yeah,
so
the rest of the skill shots all land at that point.
Big fan of FlyQuest team composition. Let's see if they can execute.
We'll see if execution's going to be coming through here. The fans are ready. We are ready. The players are as well as we load into the game. Here we go, the third and final one of this series. Who's going to take it home? FlyQuest versus TSM. SoloMid can be within half a match of C9, and in fact, C9 could lose to P1, and that would give TSM a tie for first if TSM wins here. FlyQuest, though, can drag TSM down and tie for second if they close this one out. If they were to drop, P1 could tie them for third of the win later on. So, again, a tight race for these top 4 playoff spots and really within reach for anyone.
Absolutely. This game also completes week 5 for both of these teams, meaning that's 10 games done, 8 left in the season, so just cresting the halfway point. This all-important game 3.
They do not kill the ward in time. Unlucky. Not really that big of a deal, though. Oh! Close. Yep. Bunch of low health wards. Don't worry, they last the full duration anyway. Do you think wards know how close they came to dying? Oh, elimination. Yeah, he got 16 gold back. He's actually okay with this.
Minions have spawned.
In fact, elimination comes out ahead in
they
gold.
got that one.
Oh, bam. Huge gold lead for TSM.
Freak, if wards knew they were close to dying, you would basically say wards are sentient, which would make ward placing and killing fairly barbaric. So I'm going to say that they are autonomous beings and they do not understand what's happening, is the hope.
To be fair, in League of Legends, they're killing each other anyway. That feels barbaric enough for me. You're just trying to make supports feel good about themselves. I guess, you know, the yellow trinkets are kind of like plants. They look kind of like that, so. Oh! All right, he dodged it. Good job, Biofrost. All right, into the lane we go. Altec gonna Q the minions, and Biofrost does not take the bounce. That's actually pretty important. You can take like 200 damage off the first Q, and it bounces like that. True. 3 straight Ashe games for Wild Turtle, I do believe, and Altec 2 straight onto Jhin. Once again, it's a match where Varus, I believe, went through the pick ban.
Yeah, I mean, this composition for FlyQuest is actually the same as last game. You just subbed out Maokai for Nautilus. So if they were comfortable team fighting on it last game, they're already warmed up, good to go. This time, though, notice how we talked about potential lockdown from both sides. High brings Cleanse instead of Heal, which he had last game. It's potentially just to prevent the gank synergy from a Rune Prison into a Rengar jump, or vice versa.
Every single champion has a worthy cleansable CC on them.
Ooh, gotta land those keys.
Yeah, Bjergsen missed the Q. Unlucky there. Gets the trade back, and Bjerg's out of mana, but he's got a minion wave, so High's got to be careful here. Takes all the damage through the shield, and he wants this lane to freeze in front of the turret. It hurts him, but it will make Bjergsen miss some CS. Actually, he's not really going to make it freeze after all. Just wants to hard clear it. So that's interesting. High actually looking to, I guess, hard shove the wave himself.
Early gank.
All right, looking for it there. The root is
stay
on
in
the
front of Hanser.
Moon's got a red. He's got the slow from the smoke cloud. Here comes Svenskeren. This could be a bit dangerous, but it still forces the flash. Well enough played on that gank. Now Balls CC'd. But Sven, again, half HP is not going to find much to do here. Nice chunk on in. A good bit of a heal coming through from Biofrost, and Altec on the bad end of this. Nicely done by Turtle. The volley actually, I believe, was blocked by Lemon, but a good trade.
Yeah, nice block on the back end, but they still lose that trade, and they continue to tango in the top lane right there. Both junglers appropriately pathing top lane for the gank that has netted first blood in both of the first 2 games. Was the jungler with an early gank on the top side, so adapting to the series.
Nicely done there. Buys about 6 more seconds or so. He stops Svenskern's recall. Moon's here already, and flashless. There's the flash W into the damage. The Q's going to come out soon, but be careful. Svenskern can do plenty. Jumps right back in. One more hit will do it, and he can't do it. But Sven's low, and that's the forced flash. And well, it's 2 flashes for 1, but it's a better recall timing for FlyQuest.
Yeah, and Hanser's got to get back to that lane right away so he can catch the end of that wave. And if they can't interrupt his recall, it's going to actually be mostly net neutral, even though FlyQuest did end up winning that trade.
And actually, there's a giant wave waiting for Hanser to grab. He'll actually out-level Balls a bit, as well as his shallow through level 4. And it'll actually be a small farm lead.
Yeah, minions are worth just so much gold that oftentimes these early jungle ganks are actually more about the position of the wave than it is about who wins in health or sometimes even gets kills. We saw last game, Hanser got first blooded very early, but he teleported back into a huge wave and then still won the lane by 30 CS. So definitely looked like FlyQuest was winning that one, but now everyone is flashless. Hanser is actually a little bit ahead of experience, and the only difference is the Dark Seal on balls from an itemization perspective.
Yeah, he did manage to have more gold during the recall, so it meant he got to slink in a couple more items, but you're right, it's a very minor issue, and Hanser's been winning the laning phase anyway, and really all these games, he's had the stronger laner of the 2. It was Nautilus and a Maokai twice now, and the Renekton to Nautilus the other. Now we'll see as Hai's going to roam down, play for control wards. But Biofrost is already here, and that's going to be, a forced flash. And what's interesting is I feel like Hai could have cleansed instead and not burn flash. And it was maybe the better choice, to be honest.
He could have. He was not wanting to risk the follow-up Rune Prison after the cleanse debuff kind of wears off. That could have been a potential kill, so really just playing it super
Moon
safe.
sees this, cue the wall. Oh, and Sven actually kind of intentionally stops short, but he doesn't have flash, so it's an easy kill. Fedalords, the kill comes through to Hai, and oof. Nice trap by a Moon, finds him in the river. Yeah,
really just slinking around into the right spot and being very proactive about his mid lane pressure. That is a counter gank, essentially, paying off before the gank even hits, and really punishing Svenskern's early game here, knowing he was already flashless.
Nicely done right here. Of course, we've seen now both supports make a trip to mid lane. Lemonation showed up briefly. It means Altex alone 1v2, and he's going to miss the cannon minion, maybe. As a result, I might have got it with W. I didn't quite see in time. Showed up anything to block it. Volley for a bit of poke, and it's going to be Altec under turret once again. Usually is difficult to last hit under turret on a Jhin, and TSM generally pushing as a result. Moon, I believe, was tracked going into top side, so they know they're safe for now.
Yeah, TSM won this lane in CS pretty handily last game, and they are picked, in my opinion, to win the lane. Before all the lethality hubbub and everyone going it with every single game, Ashe was considered a soft counter in lane to both Jhin and Varus. Then you add that to the fact that Nabi, one of the most potent laners, can out-sustain the Karma. TSM should be winning these lanes. It's a matter of not dying to potential ganks because they're usually pushed up.
So those ganks come through right now. 300 gold lead to FlyQuest. Top lane farm has actually managed to equalize pretty nicely. Some of that could be the fact that Balls had the slight extra ability power and regen. But neither's really taken damage. They've just got full stacks on their corrupting potions, and Balls is letting Hanser push him in. They're not really fighting for the farm. And occasionally it means Balls misses 1 or 2. But both level 6, they're pretty safe. Actually 7 for Hanser. But at least getting the ult is important. There's the blue hand off to Bjergsen, and he's going to be back to lane. Bjergsen's already made it his great recall. Catalyst here is like the ideal first recall for a Rise, so that's pretty good for Bjerg to have that.
Yeah. Had the very early recall for the Tear of the Goddess, and then was able to farm up pretty safely to that second one.
Okay.
But also have to credit Hai here, double Dorns, getting the first blood and rushing into the Lost Chapter. Both these guys, plenty of mana to spare, as they're probably going to shove each other in for a while.
Yes, they are. And nice by TSM actually grabbing the Scuttle as well as taking the Honey Fruit to keep their sustain topped off. But it's, again, it's a better recall for Wild Fiddle that you get when you have lane control. It's Warhammer to double Longsword, just strictly better items here. And that means the advantage might continue to grow here on the TSM side. Altec playing so far back, respecting the ultimate.
I mean, they're completely pushed off the wave. They have to do this as well because not only is there an Ashe Arrow available, Rengar's level 6. So if Rengar was there, they'd have to be there, but when they see Svenskeren in a ward, they can be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, if you power farm in the jungle, you can usually get that about 7 minutes in. You're almost always going to get ults before the duo lane does.
They want to Realm Warp in to get behind him.
Well,
no flash.
Ulti's in. The hook actually lands. Cleanse doesn't mean much. Shockwave pulls in. Hanser still goes down. High, of course, didn't have flash to get away. Not much he could have done about it. Nicely played. TSM find the kill.
Yeah, really clever play there by TSM, just all piling up, waiting for High to get a little bit in there, and Cleanse be damned, he's not able to get away with no flash, so TSM just pulling off another good Realm Warp play.
Well played right there, getting their first kill of the game. Gold is tied as a result of this one, and right away they go into a sub 10-minute Ocean Drake. That is a nice to have for the laning phase. Infinite mana on Biofrost makes his life so easy.
Yeah. Pretty much all the sustain supports will tell you that Ocean Drake is their favorite. Watching this though, even though High feels relatively confident with wards, and he's in his turret by the time the Realm Warp completes, can't cleanse a knockup. Auto Assault gets him right there, and Dirksen finishes him off. You can cleanse a Nami bubble.
Yes.
Because it's a weirdly coded knockup.
It's a knockup that only lasts while the stun exists.
Yep.
You can cleanse that of, I think, a Yasuo R's knockup as well.
Right, because it's coded as a different type of CC
Yeah.
as well. But there's another dive going on.
All right, this time Moon might get it right. Lands parts of the queue. The root is still on 2 balls. He's tanky enough, but they've got to respect the fact that there's someone else coming in. Sven does have flash, but doesn't go for the hard play. But unfortunately for FlyQuest, all they get is a trade of flashes.
Yeah, that's the second time this series that Moon and Balls have not been good on their turret diving right there. That one didn't necessarily seem like they were doing that much wrong, but they just totally overestimated their damage. They had the turret aggro on the right person, but as soon as Svenskeren even looked, Balls had to flash away, so not much gained by that game.
And not really. Hanser healthy enough to actually walk back into the lane, clear the wave, and then recall. And Balls didn't have that luxury. Of course, at this point in the game, top laners must save their teleports. You don't really want to get suddenly caught with a bot lane team fight and you can't join up. So that push actually just denies a full 120 gold or so. That Balls should not be willing to TP to gain. And I believe the wave's also going to slow push back towards Hanser just in general, based on where the minion wave is meeting. So Balls going to accelerate that for now. But it means that very little was lost. Hanser got to push a full wave, loses 2 melee minions. That's it. And Balls lost basically that whole wave, as we said.
Yeah, items mostly mashed in the top lane, and as you mentioned, both guys saving their teleports because they've reached the point in the matchup where it is a noodle fight. They both just built Spectre's Cal to defend against each other and not help their damage in the slightest, so they are now looking for opportunities to teleport into fights while they shove waves in.
See, right now, look at this bottom lane difference. 24 minions off, maybe not quite that now, but 20 is a pretty substantial lead. For playing the same lane, it certainly went much worse than the last one. FlyQuest cannot kill off the regular Sightstone ward. They'll get the control ward, but it's TSM with the vision lead here. Early Dark Seal for Lemonation, that's a bit surprising to me.
I would agree too.
Dark Seal and Boots. It's like, you can just upgrade your different items instead. Svenskeren actually caught on the wrong side of this fight, jumps in towards High, TP's coming in. Gonna be matched a little bit later by Balls. Shockwave doesn't get much done into Bjergsen, and suddenly Moon's alone as well. That is an easy 2 for 0 that FlyQuest did not see coming, it seems. Easy fight for TSM.
We talked about wanting to teleport into the fight, and Hanser is able to find the right fight right there. High caught completely in the river, and so much of that is because of the duo lane pressure in the bot lane. TSM consistently pushed in, consistently has river control, so when High wandered, TSM pounced.
Really nicely done there. 1,000 gold lead, and looks like bot lane is going to be first turret gold, just like it has been in the previous game. They'll have to wait one more wave, but it's certainly very low. Factor, they'll get it. Okay.
Yep.
And down it goes. Hanser walks in, say, I deserve this gold. And a red buff steal as well. TSM getting everything they could want right now.
Yeah, decent size early jump. Hanser has been gone for a while, however, so looks like Balls can probably trade back this turret. No teleport to come up and save that. So it's pretty much
That's
just
nice.
the first turret gold bonus as far as the turret trade goes. The kills, though, going to create the majority of this 1,500 gold advantage.
Yeah, 2 kills, the red buff steal, and the fact that the turret gold went to arguably better people. Say Wild Turtle getting money is maybe more important than Balls getting money. Those are not that far apart. Say Balls can, make use of that 350 gold right now. We'll see what else happens in the future. It is still only a 1,300 gold difference. Certainly FlyQuest can come back from this. Just have to see if they can get these plays in. Moon still hard farming. Equal level to Sven Skiren. And, ooh, oh no, he didn't have Rogue. It's fine. For a second I thought it might have gotten stolen, but he's fine.
Yeah, it has been a while since I've seen pro teams mess up the blue buff handoff.
Yeah, you're right.
Used to happen a lot more, so good on these guys for cleaning that up a bit.
This is how you have the no-risk blue buff steal.
Just let the mid laner take it.
Let him solo it, yeah. Obviously, Rengar has more important things to do, like whining over his loss to Kha'Zix. Lore jokes. Bjergsen running in with the move speed, gets the root onto high. Nicely played there.
Really good trade. Timed well with the rotation from TSM too. So.
All right, and back to the lanes they go. Yeah, TSM looked for the play. They, it was a nice attempt. It's very, very low risk. There's nothing to, achieve in the bot lane. And if FlyQuest had played around it wrong, that could have been a turret kill. But there were reinforcements. TSM's fine. Quick wave to go to Bjergsen, and we continue on. E into Q, minions are gone. And it is High who's playing under his turret for the most point. And wait to see more of TSM's methodical, slow gold leads playing out. Bjergsen Trinket Ward over the wall, and back we go into the wave clear game.
Yeah, but TSM still playing this fairly slow game, and a slow game where TSM is in the lead does seem to be where they're most comfortable. They want to make sure they can keep FlyQuest from forcing TSM into quick decisions, because that's how FlyQuest got a lot of their advantages, at least in game 2, but this is now becoming a fairly consistent trend throughout the series where TSM wins the laning phase in early game by a little bit, then tries to hold on and close out a victory.
See what they can grab. FlyQuest hoping their dynamic calls can do something. Now we're onto the Cloud Drake though, and TSM not going to be challenged at all for this, just kind of cashing out their early game lead so far with a on cooldown Drake take with ward control. No fancy rotations needed. FlyQuest knows they can't fight for it, or at least it seems they don't think they can. And there we go, 2-0 in Drakes, and TSM feeling good about that.
Yeah, the Ocean as well just empowers their laning phase. Not underestimate or understate how good it is to get an Ocean Drake for laning phase.
It's actually ridiculous. You trade them and then you just go back to full and you're like, why are we even fighting anything?
Yep.
You actually feel pretty powerless if you're fighting against an Ocean Drake. And you get in those games where like the level 4 Kha'Zix solos it and you're like, you didn't even deserve this. You're beating me lane anyway. Screw your jungler.
It's good, very, very sad.
That's me in most games. I feed a lot. With like 7 average deaths a game, it's actually pretty shameful, even in wins.
It's stylistic choice.
Yeah. I like to call it a triple-double if I have 10 or more kills, deaths, and assists. Then it sounds good.
In some sports, that's admirable.
Yeah. Less so for this one. Hanser pushing up the waves. He's actually got Wildcard joining him now. TSM making the first kind of dedicated rotation to this game, putting the dual lane up there, and Sven joining as well, which means it'll be a very, very fast turret kill. Balls could not possibly won before this. And he's trying anyway because Moon's around, but the bubble lands.
Oh dear.
And he couldn't possibly win before this. He's going to try anyway and just dive for it. Bifrost has aggro, and he flashed away in time. That's an easy kill that Balls should never have given away.
Yeah, Moon was behind him as well, so I think the idea was that they were going to somehow outplay them in that situation, then try and trade a turret down bottom side, but they're really just daring TSM to execute a proper turret dive, and TSM does. So FlyQuest then punished for that move.
Well, at least it's a turret trade, but that would have happened regardless of what Balls did here. He could have stayed alive and gained XP.
And now it's worse, because they don't have Balls and Moon to clear the next wave. Moon can't hold one before. They could at least clear the minions 2v4 a little bit on that second turret because there's no dives prep behind them. TSM comes out on top, but Moon actually moves to the mid lane. Now we got a teleport, so this is that forced action we're talking about. FlyQuest tries to go for it.
Okay.
It's high risk, though.
2 turrets for 2. Sven Skiren's around, no ulti. Here comes Kurt.
Oh, dear.
Monster in melee range with Bifrost. 100 HP left on him. Bubble's going to mean not a whole lot. Moon caught by the stuns, though. That's going to be him going down. Sven gets the kill. Shockwave on 2. Sven is almost dead. Heals up, and he just can't quite die. FlyQuest just can't kill him off. They're forced to flash away.
High's out of mana.
Looking for the next one in, and it's going to be High already dead, and Hanser just slinking out. All of the health bars flashing red, but it does not matter. The cleanup is there. That's a 3 for 0. Looking to make it 4 if they can.
They will.
And there it is, a double kill in. TSM 4-0 in that fight, a catastrophe for FlyQuest.
Yeah, they're looking to turn this one into a stomp because that is a 7-kill lead and they have exactly the right response to FlyQuest Siege in the mid lane. Alltech opens up, had no idea Hanser was already behind him, wastes the curtain call, and even though High lands an admirable shockwave on 2, it doesn't finish anyone, then he's run out of mana. So Bjergsen can just walk in the back of the fight with no threat whatsoever. Everyone can basically go melee range. They clean out the rest of them right here. And then presence of mind to Realm Warp down for the Karma kill at the end as well. It's just icing on top of the cake.
I absolutely agree. So a sweet tooth for TSM. They've gotten everything they needed here in this one. 5,000 gold lead. Mid lane outer killed off. 4-3 in turrets, actually not the biggest difference. Will give some props to FlyQuest for their ability to trade against good rotations, but again, definitely some mistakes in the fights, and we'll see if they can collect anything back on this. So it's an easy red buff. Sven does not take it away.
Yeah, very even kill distribution for TSM as well. Pretty much everyone with a roughly 1,000 gold lead over their opponent. So in the current state, that's actually incredibly good, and TSM should look to force because they have 2 completed items on all those 4, whereas FlyQuest is still sitting on 1.5, and that's a really big moment in the game as far as power spikes go.
Absolutely, there we go, a slow on its
But
fertile.
FlyQuest who forces instead.
Flashing out, Balls catches in, and Moon gets the kill, so there's something, and it's actually a penta assist. Everyone actually part of that fight.
Oh, wow.
And maybe FlyQuest can get something done. Svenskaren's ulted, but he can only jump balls for a crit. That won't mean much. Rise still in the bot lane. He's pushing for bot lane tier 2, so Bjergsen's getting a lot done as they are base racing like in the last game.
Yeah, really interesting by FlyQuest. Again, as TSM is cresting super large power spikes, go for a pick anyway. They get it, and now they're forcing TSM into a big play, going for an inhibitor turret. Even in a 4v5, TSM might be able to take him. FlyQuest want it, though.
It's a 3v5 because Svenskaren's not in the fight. He was clearing out the mid lane wave, so 3v5 is what they're going to take. They're going to get a lot of damage out of Hanser. Shockwave is available. Hanser's going to die for this one. Maybe a bit of a waste on the Shockwave, but he wanted to predict Flash with it. Though Flash was down, again, wasted ultimate, but that is inhibitor turret down and 2 kills picked up without anything happening.
Yeah, TSM unable to group during their massive power spikes, and FlyQuest making the unconventional, confusing call to just say, you know what, everyone is an item up on us, let's go, let's force, and they do it. They get all of the turrets in the mid lane once again, they're closing the gold lead substantially, and they pick up 2 kills, so it pays off for FlyQuest.
Does. They say go. They don't answer Bjergsen's split push. They do something else because Bjergsen's missing. He doesn't have TP like he did in the last game, and they found the opening pick, and maybe you blame Turtle, I don't know, but it still went nicely enough. FlyQuest get a couple out of this. 5-5 in turrets now. But Bjergsen is farming a Storm. 228 minions, highest in the game by a lot. You can see 9,500 gold, 1,000 over actually anyone in the game.
Yeah, so incredibly fed. The solo turret gold he got in the bottom lane add to that, but inhibitor turret exposed once again. I mean, we've kind of seen this before. TSM hasn't defended that mid lane turret well, and FlyQuest has been able to make some very decisive and quirky calls, I'd have to say, because just thinking of that from a macro perspective, you want to play defense as a team that's down by 5,000 gold when the other team has all the power spikes on you, but FlyQuest do the exact opposite, and it's almost like only a crazy person would go aggressive in this situation, but because TSM didn't prepare for that, and they're like, let's dictate to them, let's force a split push, Turtle steps out of position, TSM didn't set up the play properly, and FlyQuest instantly pounce on it, and that's the wild card factor that this FlyQuest team has over other teams.
This will be a triple Cloud game. TSM already have 2. The next one to spawn is going to be a 3rd, and well, if you're going to play the rotation game, I feel like running fast helps you line up against that pretty well. This actually could really help TSM against the way FlyQuest plays. And they can react a bit more cleanly to what's going on. Gold difference still, 3,500. There's a lot to work through, but FlyQuest have Baron control. And they're looking for Bjergsen. Can he Realm Warp out?
If he doesn't see it coming, he's not going to have time.
Okay, they see him. Can they land CC? Nope.
Yeah.
All right, good escape.
Alltech essentially wasted his Deadly Flourish early, and then Bjergsen saw, well, there's no way they can apply damage and hit Deadly Flourish again before I can Realm Warp out. And since Balls wasn't leading the charge with something like a Twisted Advance or a Q, they were unable to interrupt.
Yep, so not a lot really gained on either side. It's often hard to make use of that Rise ulti cooldown, so don't expect that to be a meaningful cooldown missing. TSM able to push in the mid lane wave, and they're back to pushing top. All 3 lanes actually are pushing in TSM's favor. It's much more vision for the red team. They're getting more out of the map. Thankfully for Moon, he's not losing his jungle just yet, but it doesn't take long till you start getting wards in there and you make his life even more difficult.
Yeah, keeping up his farm pretty well. Looks like both him and Svenskeren are going to be going for Edge of Night as their serrated Dirk upgrade. But as the waves are continually pushed in for FlyQuest, the answer more and more becomes, well, if we want to make a play, we should just go mid lane. That's where the explosion inhibitor is, and that's a rather risky strategy to pull off, and it's about who can get the pick on whom. Will Wild Turtle fire an arrow for an initiation, or will he get caught again?
Well, Edge of Night is on. Here's the ulti in. Damage on a Turtle to hit one shot. Now looking at Hanser, then back to the mid side. He lands a couple of these hits. Biofrost a little low. Hanser the front side. Bjergsen catches in though, and it's going to be Elimination stunned up and blown up. He's gone to the start.
Beautiful
double bubble means a lot more is going to happen. Redemption to buy some time. A double kill in. Make that a third as Balls is going to drop, and well, nothing's happening well for FlyQuest at all. It's only High left alive, and he's not going to stop this one. Into Baron TSM goes.
Yeah, that's about as good as the collapse could have gone for TSM as they get everyone access to the back line with the delayed ultimate coming in from Svenskeren. That's a 25-minute Baron for TSM.
No chance to steal it. There we go. TSM going to be up. It was 5,500. Make that 7K now. Minion waves don't even need manicuring. They can just reset right away, buy their items, and really push into this game. A blue buff skill to cap it. And TSM could close this out.
Yeah, still notice how they wait a little bit to try and get the right flank initiation. This is why TSM just executes so much better with Hanser on a tank. He's the one who keeps them occupied while Bjergsen and Svenskeren flank around with the Ash Arrow that still catches Elimination. But then just the knock-up chain from Bubble to Nautilus ultimate just gives FlyQuest no chance. High Moon combo has to turn tail and run away at the end of that one. Not the fight FlyQuest was looking for.
Yeah. Oof. And unlucky, you know? The facepalm comes in, and FlyQuest knew after that Game 2 win, even though they were starting to take a couple of losses, that they were catching back into the game. They had gotten those 2 picks in the mid lane. They took the inhibitor turret. Gold lead was only 3K. You can clearly come back from this. And then that team fight, they chased into the Nautilus. They grouped up. Obviously, we saw Bjergsen got that flank, and it's like, oh, that game, it was within reach. Now it's going to need almost a miracle.
Yeah, well, if you're looking for a team that can come from behind, it has often been FlyQuest. They have the open inhibitor in the mid lane, and if TSM missteps within the base and High gets a good shockwave, there is the potential for the turnaround. However, there's a lot more magic resist on TSM this game. They have the Abyssal Scepter, the Edge of Night, they have a full tank. The only guy without a magic resist item is Wild Turtle. So it is a harder fight for High to turn around if he's looking for another huge performance on Orianna.
Let's see if it can happen, though. The burst damage is still there. Graves, Maokai, and Orianna can still hit 5 people at once for a couple hundred apiece, and maybe it lines up, but they're going to need something a bit magical here. TSM split pushing their way in. Ryze and Rengar in the mid lane now ulting down to join Hanser in the bot lane. Bringing a couple minutes with them, and it's going to be the 3v1 against Balls yet again.
Takes a while.
It'll take some time. The Shockwave buys a little bit as well, and maybe this actually works for him. Redemption buys a bit. Still no Hanser. Shot's going to come through. I'll take gets a kill. Balls still durable on the front side. Gets away from Bjergsen. Turns out they reacted in time, but Balls is hit up. He gets crit up, and he gets killed off. Nicely played. A 1-for-1. Both teams lose their top laners.
Yeah, a moderate misstep, though, from TSM for sure. Not sure what they expected to accomplish against the Sunfire Cape Spirit Visage Maokai when they go down like that. They do not kill him close to in time, and then do eat the Shockwave that was the way FlyQuest could get back into the game. I say it's lucky for TSM to get out with a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, it was very close to getting more for that from FlyQuest, and actually very fortunate that Balls died at all. He actually died with flash up, so I feel like maybe a misplay from him to even give away that death. But TSM say, okay, our bad, let's reset, let's try it again. And they've still got that 40 seconds of Baron buff, which they can use to try one last time, or just turn for the Cloud Drake.
Yeah, well, they actually feel like they have an angle onto
do.
someone. Hello.
Satchel's over, but he is alone. Now, can he get the reinforcements in time? Here comes the dissonance for the move speed delta. Well, hold on, though, because the rest of the team is still coming into the realm. Warp Shockwave, and yes, it's going to pull in a couple. Good early damage. Biofrost doesn't get hit with the root, though. Sven in the wings, and actually there's no Ashe close by. That is a nice Shockwave, though, well timed by High Moon. Oh, he's gone. He's just done. The arrow and the Svenskeren combo comes through, and that means it's the third Cloud Drake easily.
So pretty. Moon thought he was safe because he had the Edge of Night shield active, but Svenskeren clears it for the Ashe arrow, and that was nearly the defense FlyQuest needed. This high completely stuffed the Realm Warp with Orianna and saved Lemon Nation. But on the backside, Moon falls. TSM get a slight lead, now without Baron though, so much harder to break the base.
And TSM actually prioritizing the base over the Drake, of course, as you only have sometimes the enemy jungler is dead and a inhibitor turret's harder to kill, so they use this time to go for the durable objective. Altun's gonna land on the 3 people. It's still a 5v4. Moon's alive in 4 seconds. And it's enough time for the inhibitor to be killed off. And they go out on the balls. Look at the damage output there. Back on a Svenskar. They could get him with one more shot. And they do. They pick off the jungler. The over-aggression once again actually turned around. The inhibitor itself actually lives. And TSM must retreat for a bit.
Another good hold by FlyQuest, and they didn't even have to burn summoner spells for that. So I think it's going to be a very critical point in the game if Balls can use his flash offensively. We talked about him saving it through all of this when he even died for it, because if he can get onto someone like Wild Turtle or Bjergsen to close out a fight, that could be huge. And also, if TSM would have killed this Drake, I believe, 30 seconds earlier, another Drake would have been respawning before the Elder, but now they got pretty much as close as they can get to a 35-minute Elder Drake.
Which actually might have been intentional, to be honest. I didn't think of that, but I actually wondered, you know what, kill it after 29, and that way we ensure we can start using that to close the game out. TSM, obviously the team with the lead, just wants major objectives like these to grab as game-winning plays. It's much easier, I would say, to kill an Elder Dragon than it is to kill an inhibitor turret or a Nexus turret. So TSM wanting more levers that are easy to reach.
Yeah, and you can see the gold lead having little hiccups here and there for TSM as FlyQuest has mounted some successful defenses here and gotten picks where necessary to halt TSM pushes, but the item lead is still very real. The death cap is being built by Bjergsen right now. When he gets that, he's going to be massive. Wild Turtle has a big item lead onto Altec right now. He's built up his crit scaling as well as his armor pen right now, so that's
huge.
Exactly the point you want to be at as Ashe, where you do outscale the Jhin.
Yeah, and he's going Mortal Reminder, which will cut the healing down from Balls a little bit, and it'll cut the healing off the eventual redemption out from Elimination. He's building towards that just now. But it might not really matter. It's a 9,000 gold lead. TSM kind of have all the tools they need to close it out without any more completions. And with 1 minute until Baron spawns, looks like that's what they're playing for. Just taking away the jungle, putting the wards down, being ready to play for a game-winning neutral objective.
TSM just looking to keep FlyQuest pushed into their base, get as much ward control as possible to try and eliminate FlyQuest's ability to defend safely. Once again, TSM had a very tough week up on the schedule with Cloud9 and FlyQuest, who have basically had that battle for first at the end of last week. Both these series have gone the distance as well for TSM. 2-1 over Cloud9, looking for a 2-1 over FlyQuest.
And yeah, you're right, it's the hardest possible week they could have. It's first and third.
FlyQuest all up the mid lane. There are flank positioning.
It is an open inhibitor, keep in mind. But you're right, the flank is there, and they've got to navigate this properly and cut off the angles. Rise a bit by himself, but he knows it's coming.
Oh, the spell shield is off too!
The shields are there, though, and he's going to be able to walk away. Rengar ults, they know about it. The hook comes in, but Ball's an okay target. They're okay with this. Middle inhibitor open for TSM as well. They're running it down the mid lane, up the gut. They're looking for the damage here. Bjergsen does plenty of damage. Wild Turtle as well. Sven can see FlyQuest running around. That will be inhibitor down. Nicely played, TSM. Capitalize off the FlyQuest move.
Yeah,
well done.
Trying to respeed Balls up for a fight. If they could get onto Turtle, remember, still has the flash, but doesn't want to go way too far in, knowing that all ultimates except for Rengar's is up.
Ooh. Maybe aggressive by Hansel, roots into the front line, and Balls is going to ult when the fight actually starts. Bubble is on, 2-man stun in the back line. Tidal Wave buys a bit more as well, but Curtain Call gets the full channel time, and it's going to be Realm Warp to get out. TSM don't want to take any more damage. They know they can get forced, and Hansel was too low to team fight. I wonder if FlyQuest go for the YOLO Baron and say, I dare you to fight us.
I mean, super risky. There's a massive minion wave in the bottom lane right now that may end up taking the majority of the turret by itself, but FlyQuest does love forcing Baron. 10,000 gold down in a 5v5. This is very risky.
Well, they saved their ults. Everything except Maokai and Jhin have ultimates available. Wild Turtle, only one of his, but as you mentioned, there's a minion wave in the bot lane. That turret went down. FlyQuest were only able to pull a teleport cooldown out of that play. And the thing is, now TSM get to run right back over to Baron, and they run fast.
Yeah, and there's no turret to clear out those minions anymore. And not to mention, TSM already on the Baron, but at 5v5, it's a little bit smarter with an 11,000 gold lead, but still a chance for FlyQuest to turn the game around if they get the right fight. Balls might have position.
Watch for Shockwave. Balls gets bubbled. That's okay. He's in towards the team. Can they find the intro? His ulti's on. He's waiting to find Bjergsen overextending. He's waiting for the push. Moon can tank this stun. That's okay. Ball's still tanky with the shields. Damage on a Hunter. Shockwave catches 2. Biofrost and Bjergsen. Biofrost gets away from this one. Elimination chunked out. A cleanse Turtle onto Turtle. He went to the front line, but it's traded back in. And it's a 3-for-1. It's all okay for TSM. They got the trade kills. And now somehow 2 have to defend 4 with an open Nexus turrets.
Turtle flanks around the side of that fight. Now TSM's just going for the jungler. They already have 3 down. They want the game.
And they save 10 seconds of move speed by going in. Nexus turret number 1 is gone. And this time around, the Nexus rush should go fast enough. Bjergsen has Zacharone, and doesn't matter. SoloMid's going to close out this series. I have to believe it. 20 seconds on the respawns. And yesterday they took down Cloud9. Today they take down FlyQuest. TSM take down their toughest opponents in the North American LCS back-to-back. And they improved to 8-2. I would assume they're trying to get the damage down, and the Nexus falls. We are right after all. Well played, TSM. They beat the hardest possible competition at this point in time. And they are half a match back from Cloud9 for first.
Yeah, you could not schedule a harder week for TSM, but they show up with double 2-1 victories. And FlyQuest is left to ponder as they lose their 3rd match in a row, dropping to Cloud9, Team Dignitas, and now TSM. And it was a close and competitive series, but TSM did have substantial leads in all 3 games. So that's a tough one for FlyQuest to swallow, and TSM now sole control of 2nd place.
Good job for TSM. Yeah, they are 2 matches above right now in the standings. 8-2 versus 6-4. Phoenix One can only go as high as 6-4, I believe, if they win their match against C9. And hey, TSM can hope that happens, because that would mean they tie C9 for first. That'd be cool. The goal for TSM was improving. That's what they had said. It's not as much about winning and losing individual matches, individual games. They want to make sure that they get better, that they improve as a team. And I would say TSM looked like an entirely different team from week 1. They looked fairly lost. They didn't have the rotations that really, it felt like Wild Turtle and Svenskeren were playing very poorly. But here, okay, Turtle flanked by himself. Maybe it's a little bit silly, but Sven went off 7-3 and 6-0 in the Rengar. Yep. His Lee Sin was insane in game 1. And, you know, this was a very good TSM.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned their growth from week 1. What about last week? They had a bad week last week, and it has been some inconsistency, but the more they're able to win games like this against the top competition they can face in North America, the more confident that they're going to become, right? Wild Turtle, clearly playing with a lot of confidence at the end of that game. He has actually been the one to get picked off more often than the rest of the team. If we just kind of look at the trends across this week, when they win, Hanser, Bjergsen, and Biofrost almost never die.
Yep.
The people that are getting targeted have been Svenskeren and Wild Turtle in most of these games, and we can see it again here, right? Bjergsen, deathless, Biofrost, deathless, Wild Turtle and Svenskeren, 5 of the team's 7 deaths. It's consistent across the Cloud9 series as well. So TSM getting there with their unique style. They're trying to do a very procedural level of shot calling. Definitely not reaching the pace they were at last year in the summer split with Double Lift helping with those shot calls. But if they can keep leveling up Hanser into that secondary leader, and his tank play has been immaculate in a lot of these games.
Yeah, agreed.
That's the way forward for TSM.
And I believe we have a replay of the last game team fight. We're going to pull that one up right here, and it's looking for the shockwave, and they just can't get it onto the targets.
Yeah, but they need to display a high level of patience in these fights, and it's a very spread out fight, but they're getting a decent amount of damage down just with Hanser blocking pretty much everyone for TSM, and the shockwave does land, which is a little scary for TSM. Turtle, a little crazy here with the flank on the side, but he arrows and looks for the execution onto high, and even though he does die, it does open the window for Svenskeren to jump in the back of the fight and get the double kill, and that's all she wrote. Once they had the 3-for-1, even if Wild Turtle is down, they have enough damage with Ryze and Rengar, Realm Warping on top of the super minions that are already here, and probably the least climactic call you were hoping for to end the game. It's like, and they're definitely going to win, but it's just going to take a while because
they slowly
turrets have a lot of health.
Try to kill turrets, yeah. As much as Turtle actually suicided there, it pulled the Maokai away from the front line. Like, everyone else was exposed because it pulled balls over, so, you know, I'll give him some credit on that one. I think Turtle was okay in that, but it is time to hear more about that win. We're going to send it over to Riv and TSM's jungler.
Shaco came out to play. How are you feeling about that matchup? It's not really something you have to say, we're changing up our composition, right?
Yeah, so right now 1-3-1 is pretty strong, and you see a lot of teams picking up. So we knew we had a stronger 1-3-1, but then once they picked Shaco, it's like kind of weird because he kind of won a split push as well. But I think everyone kind of know how to play against it because in solo queue you play a lot against Shaco. There's a lot of 1-2x, so you kind of know what the champion does. And his early game is not that good, only if he gets like a cheese level 2 gank off or something. So yeah, we just knew what to do against it.
Absolutely. And another game going to 3 for TSM. You guys have 27 played this spring split, 2 more than Dignitas right behind you at 25. Do you feel like this can come back to bite you if you keep taking games to 3, or do you guys feel comfortable in the mix?
I mean, it's more fun for us because we get more stage experience, kind of like we get to play more games, so we have more practice than the other teams maybe. And I think we're just taking the spring split to like learn and just get ready for playoffs and like for summer and worlds.
Absolutely. Looking very good in the jungle yourself. These games got pretty intense. So what were the calls, and were they coming from you towards the end of these games? We saw the base race in the first one, and then the intense calls late game. Where are these coming from for TSM?
I mean, we were just playing 1-2-1 comps, so it's kind of important that we collapse on when they're going to win 5v5. So once we split, and we just need to collapse on them when they're mid. So playing Rengar, it's pretty important for me to call like, okay, we need to collapse on, I'll go on the carry or whatever. So don't think I did a good job of like calling when we should fight, but my teammates know when to do it, so I just follow them.
It seems so. You guys in the late game look really good on the engages, and you're able to come out on top. Final question, Counterlogic Gaming to start off next week with a little break since you don't play right away. How do you feel about that since they're looking a bit better?
Yeah, CLG is kind of surprising now because they were pretty bad, but now they look super good. And we scrimmed them a lot, and they actually beat us a lot in scrims, so I'm kind of surprised with that. And yeah, I'm just excited to meet them again.
All right, well, an awesome game here. Hopefully more awesome games to come for Team SoloMid. Congratulations on a tough week and 2 great wins. Now we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to break that down.
Thank you very much, Riv. Exactly right. A super tough weekend for TSM going up against both Cloud9 and FlyQuest, and they managed to get the victories against both teams in pretty crazy series, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely not easy at all. Like, obviously, when you look at the teams, but also the games themselves, they were back and forth constantly.
And so I want to take a look at this champion select more so to establish the fact that both of these teams here in Game 3 opted for more of a standard composition, which gives us an opportunity to look at them from the perspective of their in-game strategy and team play.
Right, and FlyQuest have been struggling a little bit with their more pocket pick style gameplay. Game 2, they went more standard team comp. Sure, they struggled a little bit, but they looked pretty good overall. So Game 3, they run it back with another standard team comp. And once again, I think they looked pretty good. And it was a very close game for a majority of this.
Yeah, very much so. I'm glad to see them going back to what is working against the top tier teams. If you're going to do any of that experimentation, let's save it for games that you're a little bit more confident in. Working through the game itself, let's look at a replay 18 minutes in, 4-for-0 for TSM, because TSM did wrestle control away from Cloud9 for a larger part of this third game.
And this is where some of that creative shot calling by FlyQuest come from. There was the initial turret trade where balls had died, and then they try and push up mid to get even more off the play, but a great TP flank by Hanser interrupts Altec's contribution to the fight. And FlyQuest, because they had stayed on the map so long, are low mana on a number of people.
I was going to say, good ultimate out of high there, but you notice that his mana bar is non-existent at this point. So for the remainder of the fight, his entire DPS is relegated to auto attacks, and then you have Altec retreating out of it. So an unfortunate situation for them to end up in that team fight.
Right, it's the kind of thing where if you have mana on your Orianna and Altec actually saved his ultimate, you are able to keep shielding your Maokai, who keeps walking forward, and the Jhin is providing cover fire over the back. The fact that they did run out of mana and they did use some of their cooldowns early means that that fight is too easy for TSM to end up winning.
But good recognition out of TSM to say, hey, they're extended. We've got the ability to TP flank from the Nautilus and disrupt the team quite a bit. So it was a great fight out of them. Now let's push forward 24 minutes in the game. Another 4-for-0 plus Baron for TSM. A lot of people would say, hey, this is the end of the game. Not, you know, if not for High's creative shot calling to extend it all.
Right, but a great play out of TSM here overall. They're vision controlling around Baron. FlyQuest walks a little too far to contest, and Bjergsen has a great flank off on the side where he's basically able to throw damage into the team fight with FlyQuest unable to really punish him and focus him because Hanser is such a threat for the rest of the team to follow up on. So a good kind of two-pronged attack there, and Bjergsen's able to get a lot of damage involved in this team fight while the rest of TSM is dealing with the front line.
And both of those fights that we just watched are the kind of fights that we want to see TSM craft more often, right? We are asking them to put together proactive plays that have forethought behind them. And you can see the thinking there in order to get Bjergsen into that position for the flank, right? That's not so much a happenstance situation. That is a what am I thinking about?
pre-thought out play.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, there's some thought there that goes into that play.
Right, and I think that is a big thing because we always talk about how TSM doesn't play at the fastest pace. FlyQuest obviously forces a lot more. Right after that 4-0 in that first replay we looked at, they instantly pick Turtle right after and start charging up the mid lane and taking an inhibitor turret. And
At 20 minutes.
Yeah, FlyQuest can play at that crazy pace, but when you're the better team, you just have to make sure that when you pick your spots, you convert on them. And that's something TSM did this game. They had the decisive early Dragon as well, where they got a 2-for-0 Dragon and bot turret, which gave them their lead. So anytime that TSM really needed to make the play, they did.
Very much so. Biofresh picking up player of the game this time around on that support. Perfect scoreline there for support, 0-0 and 16. Some great initiations. The Nami becoming a much more prevalent pick here in the North American LCS over the last week or two.
Yeah, and there might be a chance that we start moving to a little bit more of these sustain kind of mages because there's been some nerfs recently to the top tier aggressive mage support. So you might see the more defensive ones like the Karma and Nami take over.
Oh my goodness, if we go back to Nami,
love it.
Soraka, Janna, and I don't know what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. Either way, TSM coming up with a big 2-0 weekend over our other two top teams. We've got more league action coming your way. Up next, former teammates Sneaky and Meteos face off as Cloud9 hit the Rift against Phoenix One. Don't go anywhere.